All right, good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for joining me. Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the different lands we meet on today. I'm on the land of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and I value their cultural heritage, beliefs, and relationship with the land, sea, and skies, which I believe we can all learn from. I pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. Today we have updates from Peter on financials, Nicole on all things COVID safe, and Jessie on in our youth area. As you know, the Victorian government released their roadmap towards COVID safe normal for the state last weekend. And of course, things have already progressed since this announcement. Last week, I presented some slides that showed the 4-step roadmap and where each of our sectors sits for each step for our Metro Melbourne and our regional Victoria areas. I will share their slides again since there have been a few things to update, in particular for regional Victoria. This week, the Premier announced that regional Victoria will move to step 3 of the roadmap beginning this morning. Step 3 means there are no longer restrictions on leaving the house, but masks are still mandatory. It also means each household can have one nominated other household in their social bubble. Step 3 from a business perspective means our regional recreational facilities may open outdoor lap swimming pools at a density level of 50 people per pool or 1 person per 4 metre squared, whichever number is fewer. I can confirm that our Warragul Leisure Centre will be reopening from the 21st of September for outdoor lap swimming. This will be the first YMCA pool to reopen in Victoria and will be amongst the first of 4 pools statewide to reopen as the COVID recovery commences, which is really exciting. For our other regional sites, we're working with our regional council partners to understand when we will reopen. And of course, as I said, this is very exciting for regional Victorians. And as the Premier said, this is only possible because the daily averages for new cases in regional Victoria were down to 3.6, and there had been no mystery cases for 2 weeks. So I'd like to give a big shout out to all our staff in regional Victoria for your efforts in reducing the spread and following the rules. As in previous restart earlier this year, we had to respond to the restrictions around gathering levels and density requirements allowed. And I wanted to let you know we've been advocating really strongly to the Victorian government to put in place viable restriction levels. Often we find out about these restriction levels when you do. But rest assured, as soon as these are announced, we will work with our council partners to determine the best time to reopen based on the council's assessment of viability. We will be updating the emergency website each week with the latest information regarding the reopening dates and specific restrictions for each sector. If your site is reopening and you're required to work, you will be notified by HR 3 days prior to being stood up. Now for RITEC update. We have seen a 6% improvement in people clocking on and off RITEC over the last couple of weeks, but unfortunately a slight drop in scheduling. It's really important, if you are responsible for scheduling shifts, please ensure you're factoring this responsibility into your daily tasks. In order to meet our target of 80% compliance before the end of the month, we need another 4% increase for clocking on and off. After this date, we'll be aiming for full compliance, and it's a huge priority for the organisation, and we need everybody to play their part. Thank you also to the 750 people who have attended RITEC training to date. If you have RITEC issues, you can always email rta.vic@ymca.org.au for support. And finally, I wanted to share some positive feedback from some of you after the Y has begun paying the broken shift allowance. Staff have expressed their thanks, saying casual staff. Staff have expressed their thanks, saying they're looking forward to the extra money, which will help things like extra coffees, even postponed weddings. I'm really pleased that the broken shift allowance will make such a positive difference for staff receiving it. I'm now handing over to Peter for a finance update. Are you on?
Take it off mute. There we go. Look, hi everybody, and thanks, Carolyn. The last time I came on the webinar was almost 2 months ago in July, where I shared the financial position of the Y and the steps we had taken to get ourselves into a more positive financial position. I'll share with you in a moment a graph that highlights our cash position now and forecast compared to when COVID first hit in March and when I presented in July. Since then, it has been 2 months of strict lockdown, which I think has been longer than any of us anticipated. Throughout this time, the Y has essentially remained in hibernation, with approximately 80% of our staff remaining stood down, de-rostered, or on reduced hours. So I wanted to share a finance update with you all as we begin to approach a turning point in Victoria, roadmap to reopening, to give you some confidence in our financial position. You may recall this graph when I presented it back in July. It is a summary of the movement in our cash from the start of COVID in March 2020 through to June 2021, prepared at different points in time. The red line is the forecast cash balance when the impact of COVID-19 first hit us in March 2020. It highlighted that we had approximately 13 weeks of cash remaining before we would run out of cash. This would have been the impact had we not undertaken all those actions that I went through at the last webinar. The purple line is the actual and forecast movement in our cash balance that was prepared back in July this year. The green line is the current, almost up-to-date movement in our forecast cash balance. As you will see, there are some ups and downs between the blue and the green, the purple and the green lines, driven mainly by the positive impact of JobKeeper 2, offset by the impact of the extension of the restrictions in Victoria. I'd like to highlight that our forecast cash position at June 2021, off to the right-hand side of the graph, has improved from the earlier forecast prepared a couple of months ago, which is really pleasing. And we are certainly in a substantially better financial position than where we were back in the middle of March this year when we prepared the first forecast. That's the red line. And just to give you all some comfort, the graph also highlights that our cash balance at all times during the year is well in excess of the total employee entitlements. That is all those amounts owed to you. That's the yellow line. As you are aware, the JobKeeper wage subsidy amount will be extended to March 2021, albeit at reduced amounts. To be eligible as an employer, we need to demonstrate to the ATO that our turnover has declined by 15% or more. At this stage, we believe all entities will remain eligible for the December quarter. This wage subsidy has been the most positive financial impact for the Y during the crisis. It has been one of the factors in us remaining solvent and providing the financial capacity for us to relaunch out of this crisis. We've also applied for a Victorian state government support grant, which is open to key businesses that are noteworthy contributors of social and economic benefits to Victoria. We've certainly got all our fingers and toes crossed for this one, as it will have a positive financial impact on the Y. I would just like to conclude my presentation by saying we are in as good a position as we can be expected, given the impact of COVID-19 over the past 6 months. We are also absolutely confident we have the necessary financial resources to relaunch out of this crisis successfully. That concludes my presentation, and I'll now hand over to Nicole.
Thanks, Peter, and hi, everybody. As we begin to reopen for a second time, the good news is that we have our COVID-safe commitments and enhanced safety and hygiene practices already well established. The 6 COVID-safe commitments, as we all know, are temperature scanning, social distancing, signage and instructions, increased hygiene and cleaning, training for staff, and the process for a confirmed case. There are also a few new elements that the government have introduced that we all need to be aware of on top of our existing commitments. And these are wearing a face mask at all times unless you have a permitted reason not to wear a mask, like for example, being in the water. As you can see, we've included this in our 6 COVID safe commitments on the screen, and it's under increased hygiene. In addition, there's a requirement to declare that as an employee, we are free from COVID symptoms prior to starting our shift. We're in the process of determining the best way to record this information across the sectors that fall into the restricted categories. The other new feature is working in bubbles. And as you know, the Y has already been doing this. That is, we haven't been allowing staff to work across multiple sites. We understand that as we move through the restriction categories from heavily restricted through to COVID normal, we anticipate that these rules will ease over time. We will also have to assess the density rules, and these will be drip fed to us over time as well. So we will need to respond to these ever evolving government regulations. I'd really like to thank everybody for your commitment to adapting to the new COVID safe requirements in your workplaces. As far as I'm concerned, you're all superstars. This new way of working is likely to be our new normal for quite some time. So I'd like to thank you all for approaching it with positivity and professionalism. Having seen how well you handled reopening under restrictions the first time, I'm confident that we'll be able to reopen this time around with even more success. To those staff who've taken the time to complete your mandatory training, including COVID safe and responding to safeguarding concerns training, thank you. If you have not yet completed your mandatory training, please use this time to complete it, keeping in mind that you cannot return to work until you have done so. For job-specific training, such as lifeguarding training, I'm pleased to let everybody know that Lifesaving Victoria have confirmed that an extension to current qualifications will be provided up until 6 weeks after all metro and regional pools are permitted to open. And in relation to first aid and CPR qualifications, these must be up to date as they can both be currently undertaken online. And acknowledging that our lifeguards have been away from pool deck for quite some time, we will be providing refresher training that will include an online reinduction and in-service training. And finally, I just wanted to share a learning from the aged care sector. So many of the staff who work in aged care sector actually contracted COVID-19 from gathering in the staff room. And the staff room is a place where normally, you can let your hair down and relax on your breaks. But right now, we need to maintain vigilance at all times and not let our guards down, even when we're taking breaks. So this means maintaining social distancing, continued increased cleaning, wearing masks when in the staff room, and limiting the number of people to the permitted number in the room at any given time. Please do not share communal food, regardless of how good it looks and how good it smells. And if you are taking a break for any reason, including being outside, please ensure you maintain the 6 COVID safe commitments. Our COVID safe commitments are not just designed to keep our customers safe or to meet the restrictions required by the government. These are designed to keep you safe too. So please ensure you adhere to the commitments, whether performing work duties or taking a break. Thanks everybody, and I'll hand over to you, Jessie.
Thank you, Nicole. Hello everyone, I'm Jessie. I hope you're all finding ways to keep yourself happy and healthy this week. Usually my role in the Y is to plan and facilitate our youth camps alongside our dedicated youth services volunteer team. Anyone who knows me will know how passionate and proud I am about the connection, sense of belonging and community building that this program and all of our youth leadership and development programs achieve. The strong community spirit which surrounds our youth camps is formed in partnership between our powerful volunteers and our phenomenal young people. The campers we are so lucky to share these experiences with are often facing severe marginalisation, and I can tell you firsthand that they are some of the most resilient, kind and insightful young people you will ever meet. Our youth campers are the definition of young people who deserve to have their voices amplified and their stories and experiences shared. I can confidently speak on behalf of my team when I say we can't wait to continue creating these safe spaces for young people to express themselves freely when we can. Just last week, a group of volunteer camp leaders and I hosted a Zoom catch-up for our camp community of young people. We have had such a beautiful time sharing stories and hearing about their fondest camp memories. It was so lovely to hear that camp and the connections we have built there are still surrounding them and allowing them to feel less alone this year. One camper shared that the session we ran was like a beautiful picnic with friends, and she said she has missed us all so much. She is just about to finish high school and plans on studying community services next year. Thanks to her camp experiences, she's going to become a youth worker, and we just couldn't be prouder of her. We're hosting 2 more sessions for young campers through the virtual Y Youth timetable in the school holidays, and we can't wait to see and meet some more friendly faces. Throughout this year, I've taken on a new role of Youth Support Lead for Virtual Y, working with the Youth Services team to create a digital platform that is youth-focused and youth-informed has been a huge learning opportunity. As you'll see here, the youth timetable is accessible on the website and lists all of our interactive sessions each week. So far to date, Virtual Y has had just under 9,000 registrations and has had over 80,000 individual sessions since we launched the platform. The youth timetable is in the top 10 most clicked on pages of the platform, which is a testament to the hard work of our team and our ability to adapt to this new environment. We've all understood the word pivot with a whole new meaning, and we feel fortunate to have had a means to channel our passion and energy throughout this ever-changing year. We hope that the Virtual Y continues to be a platform for connection, hope, belonging, and development for all young people, both within and outside of the Y. We have some exciting interactive sessions launching just in time for Term 4, our youth clubs. There'll be more opportunities for young people to be engaged and feel connected to community on the Virtual Y than ever before. Look out for a session that suits you or a young person you know in the coming weeks. As you'll see in just a moment, the youth support page is a really accessible space for young people to access additional and external trusted support organisations, and also to reach out to members of our youth support team who can help point them in the right direction if they're looking for specialised support. As a very reflective young person, I've really stepped back to examine my thoughts throughout this time of COVID-19, and I've considered what the world looks and feels like when we collectively have to stop and take a breath. I've found that seeking out new ways to propel my passion for elevating young people and ensuring that I feel useful, but I'm also being very kind to myself, has been key. This year has been surreal at the best of times, and I have to say, working within a team that is so filled with compassion and determination to meaningfully maintain connection with young people has been such a shining light during this time. I hope to see you all on an interactive session soon. Have a wonderful weekend and get outside for some sun-protected sunshine. Thank you. We'll now move into our Q&A.
Thanks so much, Jessie. Okay, so we will move into Q&A. There was something that Jessie said that made my Siri go, so apologies for that. If daily average coronavirus cases continues to go down at a rapid rate, will you advocate to reopen recreation and leisure centres? So Misha, absolutely. So we work very closely with the advocacy groups, which does include all our competitors, both with ARV, so Aquatics Recreation Victoria, and with Fitness Australia, and we're advocating constantly. So there is roundtables being conducted as we speak, and we are heavily involved in ensuring that we advocate to make sure that that the levels of density and gatherings are going to be viable for us, and the timing is going to be viable for us. But it was really good news, I've got to say, today with just 28 cases, but we've got to see that continue to decrease. What amount of time between shifts constitutes a broken shift? Will there be information to managers about this? Yeah, so absolutely there will be. There's a few questions for me. There will be some information about this, and what we're trying to do is automate it. And Peter Cargan will also be working, and his team, ensuring that that is included in your budgets, if applicable. Whoops, that's done. When will the recruitment ban be lifted? So I assume that that is in relation to recruitment of shared services team members, because we are currently recruiting for summer jobs in our recreation centres, etc. And we have had to continue to recruit in our children's programs, so there isn't any recruitment there. So basically what we're going to be looking at is what sort of resources we need as we enter into the phase of opening back up. And that will more than likely result in us needing to recruit new people. As you know, we have had some people that have been made redundant and are on a redeployment. So they will obviously get the opportunity to go for any of these new roles that we may have available as people have moved in and out of the organisation. So that is coming up. We probably need some more clarity around when we can open from the Victorian government as yet though. Okay, for Peter, oh dear. So why were we taxed so heavily on our split shift back pay?
Oh, okay. Look, it's very much dependent on the amount of the back pay, the period, what it's paid, and your own marginal tax rate. That's what drives the tax being deducted. What I'd suggest, if it's a specific question from an individual, that you contact the payroll department, and they'll be able to handle your specific query for you.
Okay, Nicole, a couple of questions for you around masks. Will there be rules regarding the types of masks that are required to be worn, and will they be provided by the centre?
No worries. So the mask that will need to be worn will need to be in line with government restrictions and government information. And this is online on our YNet site. There's a whole section on masks. Of course, the masks would need to be work appropriate. And further, we will be providing single-use masks at all of our sites, particularly, for example, tasks such as first aid provision, temperature checking. So yes, they will be.
Okay, fantastic. So yes, we will provide masks. And will they need to be worn? Get your crystal ball out here, Nicole. Will face masks need to be worn during the summer period at pools?
Look, that is a really interesting question. In relation to mask usage, we will be heavily driven by what the government restrictions and requirements are. But on top of that, we also have a responsibility to our employees. So we would ensure that our safe work procedures addressed risks such as working in an increasingly hot environment during summer.
Okay, thank you. This is an interesting question. Nothing to do with COVID, it says. As an employee of YMCA Victoria, can you benefit from swimming in a YMCA New South Wales facility? So I will answer that. At this stage, our YMCA staff benefit card is only for Victorian sites. YMCA New South Wales, as I understand it, nor any other YMCA across Australia don't have the same benefits that we do. So it is specifically a Victorian benefit. However, what we do with the other 3 Ys in Victoria is we work very closely with them to ensure that we give the same benefit across Victoria at least. So at this stage, we can't offer it to you from a New South Wales perspective because they don't necessarily offer it to their own staff. Okay, so will JobKeeper staff be prioritised to be stood up? So we will be working with everybody to make sure that we've got the right people at the right time. That will mean with the right skills. So that will be people as normal, whether they've got JobKeeper or they haven't been eligible for JobKeeper. Those people who haven't been eligible for JobKeeper, particularly through no fault of your own, because you're perhaps an international student, it certainly will not be disadvantaged in any way. So I just wanted to make sure people understood that. Okay, if Learn to Swim returns in October, what is the likelihood of not being eligible for JobKeeper when it reduces once again in January? It's kind of a Peter Cargan question. So Peter, you indicated that, we're really confident that the December quarter we will have JobKeeper. What's your confidence level in the March quarter?
Look, I think for certain entities, Carolyn, we would be eligible. It's really just assessing how the sites open up for that quarter and what the attendances are. That's really going to drive what the turnover is and how that does compare to the corresponding quarter last year. So look, it is hard to say. It does depend on those attendances when we do open up and how quickly everyone comes back and how the revenue goes. So hard question to answer, to be honest, but it will be it's very much entity by entity specific.
Okay, fantastic. I'm just trying to get the answer to the next one. So are you able to tell us which regional sites are able to open as yet? So as I mentioned before, I only know at this stage that we have confirmation from Warragul opening, and we are working with our other regional centres to see what can be opened. But understanding not all of our regional centres have an outdoor pool. So it is only outdoor pools that can open at this stage in the current stage 3 restrictions. Okay, thanks for the update. Do all of these measures apply to states that have no cases for over 2 months, ACT, or are they allowed to roll back a bit? So yes, I'm going to say I was very Victoria-centric, only because the other states are, pretty stable in their COVID rates and in their easing of restrictions. So as I understand it, those restrictions are staying about the same and haven't, eased, or have been progressively easing. But the measures do apply just to Victoria that I talked about. I hope that answers your question. We are open in all other states. So we're open in South Australia, we are open in ACT, New South Wales, Queensland in terms of our King's Swim and our SALC. So they are all open at the moment and are basically, as you would have seen there in Victoria, using COVID safe plans, which is absolutely where we want to get to. All right, one for Jessie. What role could the Y play in young people's lives as we reach the stubborn tail of lockdown?
What a great question. I think the Y will play a huge role, as we always do. You know, we're leaders in the youth development space. And I can say quite confidently that, we are powered by a really highly skilled staff and volunteer team. And I think that will make a huge difference moving forward. I think that will play a really big role in ensuring that young people can get back into achieving healthy bodies and happy and healthy minds. So I think there's real potential for the Y to make a really big impact in the coming months as we move back into what will hopefully be a very normal life that we're all looking forward to.
Fantastic, Jessie. And here's one. Thank you, Jessie, for your passion for young people shines through the screen. We're so lucky to have you working on virtual Y during this time. So that's very nice. And someone said 2 washable masks are given to each staff member, ordered by site through e-stores. So just a little bit more information around that. And I do apologise, there's a number of other questions, but we have run out of time today. So thank you very much. As you know, sorry, I'm just going to get to where I am. Before we finish up, I'd like to just let you know that we are offering you an anonymous self-check-in over the next week or so. The information from this self-check-in is, as I said, anonymous. It's going to give us a better understanding of how you're feeling right now, what's working well for you, what things that you think the Y could be doing differently, and what support you need individually, and really anything else you'd like to share with us. The self-check-in only takes about 5 minutes, so please take the time to share your thoughts. Your opinions, are really valued, and I will say they are making a difference. We do try to, as we're getting more and more information, we're trying to change what we're doing and give you more information and different information, particularly in these CEO webinars. Also, finally, you may also be wondering what's happening with the staff and volunteer awards this year. We obviously can't host the event in person as we've done in previous years. So we have made the decision to host this as a virtual awards ceremony this year. And we will keep the awards to be in line with the Y Australia Awards. So that means if you win a Victorian award, you'll also be in the running to win an award nationally. Nominations are going to be open from next week. So please get on board and nominate the winners, because I think, it's one of those years that we really need to make sure that this is really well represented. So there'll be more information and details to come about how you can nominate in next week's webinar. But until then, I just wanted to thank you everybody for tuning in, and thanks to Peter, Nicole, and particularly Jessie for joining us today. It was really wonderful to see you on, and I think Andrew's absolutely right, you're a wonderful ambassador. So thanks so much, Jess, and goodbye everybody until next week.